Iowa State looks to make their mark at the top of the Big 12, but good grief, we need Tamin Lipsey healthy.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Thursday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. It's the only daily national college hoops. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to say thank you for making us your first listen or watch, and give a special shout out to all the everydayers who are joining us and all the great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord as well. That link for all of you, man, it's out there in the show notes. Come and make sure you join us. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if that bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Go ahead and download it and get started today. Coming up on the show, we've got our final team preview. I cannot believe it, but that means it's because the season is here. Let's go. And joining me to do that is the great host of Locked On Cyclones. That's Iowa State, Mr. Nick MAROVETS, and my man, it is great to be together. It's been a minute, and I'm so excited to be chatting today.
Yeah, it's been about a year. I'm honored to get to be the last preview, the last hurrah before we jump into this great season.
Man, it's so fun. And we're talking Big 12 both today and tomorrow, because tomorrow, Andy and I will do our final conference preview of the offseason. We'll be talking Big 12, so we're going to get to talk Cyclones a little bit more. That means 40% of this week got some Iowa State Cyclones in it. I love it, and you know OTS is happy about that. Let's look back quickly at what happened last year. The Cyclones finished 25-10 overall, 13-7 in Big 12 play. They finished 5th. In the Big 12 tournament, they lost to BYU in the quarterfinals, where it was like first team to 100 wins kind of situation. NCAA tournament, the Cyclones were a 3 seed. Man, I thought they were looking good to get to like that Elite 8, maybe the Final 4, but Ole Miss got hot, man, and they trucked through and beat Iowa State in that game. Curtis Jones, the lead team off the bench a lot of the year at 17.4 points. And man, I got to tell you, Nick, I really felt like the injuries down the stretch to Keshawn Gilbert, for example, really marred the end of what was otherwise a phenomenal season.
It started out so hot. It really was looking like one of those years where we'd finally break through into that, Elite 8, Final 4 kind of territory. But then you're exactly right. And it all started with the MILAN MOMCILOVIC injury right around that West Virginia game. I think it was the Kansas game that he was ruled out for. And when we won that game, I genuinely was like, we're winning the Super Bowl. It's over. There's nothing that can stop us at this point. And then, I'll never forget the Caleb Love shot against Arizona, because to me, that was when the season just completely fell off the deep end. And it felt like there was always like grasping at straws. We'll get him here. We'll clean this up here. But we never quite found it. And it was shaky going into that tournament. Obviously, the NCAA tournament just couldn't quite get it done against Ole Miss.
Yeah, because before that West Virginia loss, literally the only loss was that loss to Auburn in Maui, and a game that, quite frankly, Iowa State probably should have won. And then you're right. It just was like, dang it. And things ultimately fell apart. So I hate to then have to start it this way, but Nick, Tamin Lipsey has been out for a little bit with a grade 2 MCL sprain. Before we talk about it seems like the timeline is looking like it's in good shape from all the reporting that's been going on. But with him being out for a little bit here in the preseason with the exhibition games, is there any world in which that could help Iowa State gain some more depth ahead of the season?
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. If you're going to look for a silver lining, it's certainly that he was hurt during a time where games don't matter. And OTS talked so much about the 2 exhibition, these no longer secret, kind of scrimmages that Iowa State's had as opportunities for Iowa State to get in front of a crowd, to play, obviously, at Creighton, with a hostile environment, and in front of somebody that actually cares about the game, as opposed to nobody really sees this. It's hard to really get up for a game like that and feel the environment. That is exactly, you can kind of pin that also with the whole Tamin Lipsey deal. So how does this team respond when they don't have a big time player, that number 1 kind of field general guy in a legitimate game environment? So obviously you want him back, right? This team, I think, is better with him on the floor. I think everybody can agree on that. But if you're going to look at the bright side, they have they have seen what this team's capable of over the last,
No.
two whatever scrimmages before we got into actual wins and losses.
And I mean, to your great point, yeah, I think it's critical for the Cyclones to get Tamin back ASAP. Nick, it sounds like from everything I've read over the past couple weeks, and even from the horse's mouth, that he plans on being back for Monday against FDU there in Ames. Is there anything that leads you to believe that will not be the case?
No, I don't. I don't think that in any world would that be the case that he wouldn't play. I will throw this out there. Personal note, I would rather him be 200% healthy than like 85% healthy, because we've seen what this team can fall apart into, right? And so I don't want to start the string unraveling early. I'd rather be intact, and maybe we lose to Mississippi State and he takes an extra week or whatever it is. That's fine by me. But knowing Tamin, he will play with only one leg, no arm. He's allowed to if he's cleared by the doctors. So I have no doubt that he'll be in that first game. And I think that will also give this team a sense of like, okay, Tamin's back. We've got we're ready to roll, go at this season full strength. There's no like kind of half in, half out to start the year, which I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. And I love your point there. Like, the first week of the season is FDU and Grambling. Like, there is no need for him. And you'd rather just like, hey, let's win those games, give Tamin an extra week. And honestly, to your point, it's like, even if you play a Mississippi State without him, which honestly, I think the Cyclones could still win that game even without Tamin Lipsey. But for me, the point of no return is got to have him back by the Players Era Festival, that the week of Thanksgiving. I mean, gosh, the first game of that is against St. John's. We'll talk about the schedule later. But I guess then ideally you'd love to have him back before that so we can work in a little bit, because that's 3 games in either 3 or 4 days, depending on how it plays out. And so going to be really interesting to see how that comes together. I mean, Nick, like, if there's something weird, we don't expect there to be, there's been no reporting that there is, but how different is the ceiling and maybe even the floor for this team with a fully healthy Tamin Lipsey versus either no Tamin or a gimpy Tamin?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing that Tamin brings to this team is, and maybe it will be different this year. Obviously, I don't know. We've yet to see, but Tamin brings a different energy to the Cyclone basketball team, not necessarily the box score, right? So somebody who doesn't really know a whole lot about the ins and the outs of the Cyclones might say, well, I mean, you see what Tamin brought last year. It's not like he's averaging 30 points a game. They should be fine without him. It's not about the points, the assists, the rebounds, whatever. I guess rebounds would probably fall into this category, but it's about the effort plays, right? How often is he diving on the ball at half court and passing it from the ground up court for a fast break? Like, that's the type of play, the energy that Tamin brings to this team. So I wouldn't say that directly, the number of points he's scoring is going to impact the ceiling or floor, but the vibe of the team will reflect how available he is, how much energy he's bringing. So I would say it's probably like plus or minus 3 wins, 4 wins. It's not enough to make or break the season, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong. But just based on actual output, I think you could probably be okay in that 3 to 4 plus or minus window, I would say.
Yeah, that checks out. I hear what you're saying there. Speaking of points, by the way, Iowa State does lose their top 2 scorers in Curtis Jones and Keshawn Gilbert. That's par for the course for just about everybody in this day and age. But what's not is Iowa State then brings back scores 3 through 5, Tamin Lipsey, along with Jefferson. Sure, why not? Jefferson, new term. Joshua Jefferson, and the man, he's my favorite Cyclone, MILAN MOMCILOVIC. All of those dudes are back, plus Nate Heisey, who was 7th in scoring last year. And so, like, how important is that in your mind, Nick? And out of those guys, like, does one of them ascend to now being the leading scorer? Is that Joshua Jefferson, who was 3rd last year?
You expect it to be Joshua Jefferson, more than likely, but I think there is an element of it needs to be MILAN MOMCILOVIC, right? And you didn't mention him, nothing against you, but also Cade Kelderman returns, and he was put on scholarship this offseason. So that's been a big point for this team is you've got 5 key guys coming back. There's 5 guys that are able to set the tone. This is what Iowa State basketball is. Even if it's not necessarily scoring, Cade Kelderman worked his way up from a walk-on to a scholarship. This is what we expect from you as a freshman. This is what we expect from you. Practice, daily habits, day in, day out, whatever it is. I like where this team's at returning-wise, points-wise, on the actual court. I think somebody has to step up big time because you are losing 2 major scorers in Gilbert and Curtis.
All right. Well, speaking of that, I want to take a broader look at the whole roster. We talked about some of those guys coming back, but who's coming in from international waters? Any freshmen going to contribute? We'll look at all that, make some starting five predictions coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, you guys, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Because look, even if you miss the start of a game or maybe you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks and all sorts of great stuff. Heck, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting every night, especially, man, if your team's making that late push. So fun. One of the things that I love that FanDuel does is put out regular season odds for like the major conferences. I asked Nick to pull up the Big 12 odds. Let's hear where Iowa State comes in at the Big 12. What are we looking at, Nick, in Big 12 conference odds?
Iowa State comes in at 5 behind Houston, BYU, Texas Tech, and Kansas. You can grab them at plus 850 to be the regular season winner.
That checks out. I think that makes some sense. So you might want to get in on that, whether you're Nick or anyone else. Why not? Because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we're going to continue talking Iowa State Cyclones here today. We're going to look next at the personnel. We've already mentioned the returners, so let's go on to the new additions. By the way, it is those 5 returners in terms of scholarship level guys: Tamin Lipsey, Nate Heisey, Joshua Jefferson, MILAN MOMCILOVIC, and as Nick so wonderfully mentioned, Mr. Cade Kelderman. Always love those stories of guys moving up from walk-ons to scholarship. Of course, now you don't have an option with the new rules, but whatever. And then we want to look at the newcomers. Let's start in the portal, where there are 4 newcomers to this team. Of course, Nick, here we go again. One of them going to miss the season, injured. That's Mason Williams from Eastern Washington. But coming in, that will play: Blake Buchanan from Virginia, Eric Mulder from Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Dom Nelson from Utah Valley. What do you make of these portal additions to the squad?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to start with Mason Williams because you obviously bring up he won't play this year. But, man, was I excited to see what this guy could bring.
Yes.
He was the one I circled. And obviously, Blake Buchanan from another Power 4 program, like, it's a big name, and he'll make a big impact this season. But, man, Mason Williams, I was excited to see what he will do. And I think we obviously will see that in the future. But Eric Mulder, I think a name that is being slept on right now, definitely can make a big impact. But it is Blake Buchanan for me that's going to be tested early, right? And I think his chemistry with Joshua Jefferson and MILAN MOMCILOVIC, how that plays out, will be a big determiner in how this season goes. Obviously, Dom Nelson has an opportunity to make a big impact as well. But no, for me, it was always Blake Buchanan and Mason Williams as far as my attention.
Yeah, there we go again, man. The injury bug. Hilton Magic apparently doesn't apply to the injury bug, Nick. I think that's what we're learning brokenheartedly here. All right, there are 3 freshmen coming in to this group. Jamarion Bateman, the 6'3 guard. He's 42nd at 247 Sports in the class. Xavion Mitchell, a 6'6 forward, and Killian Torre, a 6'3 guard. Nick, by the way, I haven't usually, I like to go find pronunciations of guys' last names from like broadcasts or other things. Is it Torre? I've just not been able to decipher it appropriately.
That's how I am going forward. Yes, it is Killian Torre.
Okay, perfect. Then I'm not an idiot. So for this 3-man freshman class, Nick, what do you see for these guys? What kind of roles do you think they'll have?
Well, I think the most exciting one is Killian Torre, in my opinion, because Iowa State basketball has kind of been known as this really strong defensive unit. They're able to pressure you, the entire length of the court. They might win a game 45-44. They don't need to score that many points if you hold the opponent to kind of less, right? That's how it works. It's all about who scores.
Hang on. You're telling me that if I score more than you, I win this basketball game? That's how it goes?
That's what I think a lot of people forget about basketball.
This is wild.
It's all about who has more points.
Gosh, few people know that about basketball, Nick. We need to tell the world: score more points, win more games.
That's the breathtaking analysis I bring to you on Locked On College Basketball. But no, the exciting thing about Torre is that he seems to be very similar to like a Tamin Lipsey. All right, somebody, and obviously more guards in Iowa State's past, but immediate future, it's Tamin Lipsey, and so you can kind of carry that baton and hold that same identity that Iowa State has had for quite a while now, and that's really exciting. Xavion Mitchell and Jamarion Bateman, 2 guys that I'm really excited about personally. Obviously, Bateman highly touted, 42nd, you say there, and then 6'6" for Mitchell. That's going to be a problem. I think Iowa State needs, not a problem in a good way. I think Iowa State needs more size like that. We've kind of gotten away from that in a way, not entirely. Obviously, we'll talk about Pleta here in a second, but we get a lot of 6'1" to 6'4" guys, and I'm excited about that height from Mitchell.
You know what I just realized while you were talking about previous guards from Iowa State? The Iowa State injury bug has extended to the NBA as well, because Hallie is on the shelf right now. We can't catch a break, Nick. What are we doing?
No, I think every Cyclone fan knows exactly what we're talking about here. It is tough out here. We're just trying to make it day to day at this point.
My aims is to get this team healthy. Okay, I apologize for the dad joke. Here we go. DOM PLETA from Germany. What do you like from this 6'11" freshman forward?
This guy could be like the next Wembanyama, right? Like that is, I'm not saying he is.
Sorry, what?
He's not yet, but I think he could be. That's what's so exciting about this guy. The size he has and the talent that I've seen is very, very promising. And I'm wondering this season, we'll talk, I'm sure, a little bit more about like specific roles that these guys have.
Yeah.
But if Pleta can be that guy that can be both a guard and a forward, right? Can kind of do it all out there, not necessarily asked to, but is able to rise to that occasion, and is that guy that can take Iowa State to, maybe a B tier to an A tier team in the Big 12.
Nick, as we think, let's talk about some of those roles then, because, with playing 2 exhibition games, both against high majors, the game at Creighton and then hosting Northwestern, we've seen the same starting 5 in both of those games with Tamin Lipsey out. So is your expectation, it was Killian Torrey, Nate Heisey, MILAN MOMCILOVIC, Blake Buchanan, and Joshua Jefferson. Is your expectation that it is those 5, but just flip in Lipsey in place of Torrey to start the season? Is that what you expect the starting 5 to be?
I do. I expect it to be exactly as you said. Torrey, Heisey, MOMCILOVIC, Jefferson, Buchanan, swap in Lipsey once he's healthy. For the main reason, the reason I say that is because when Otts was asked about it, he said, we are taking this like we're going to win there is no experimenting. And I thought that was very odd. I've never really heard a coach say, we're not going to even consider any other option. We're going to do what we're going to do. And how it goes is how it goes. And that's exactly what our plan is. I was like, I feel like this would be an opportunity to learn, to maybe do some experimenting, but all right, if that's how you're going to do it. So that's from what I'm hearing that is literally their plan, is to go with those 5.
I mean, I guess from a role definition standpoint, like, what to expect coming into every game. This is who I am. This is what I do. I guess that can help in some ways. Now, the guys that have been the key contributors off the bench in those exhibitions, obviously Torrey, once he is relegated to the bench, but then also Dom Nelson and Jamarion Bateman. As you look at it, Nick, is that the top 8 in your mind, or are there others that could crack that top 8 rotation?
No, I think it is those guys. I think DOM PLETA could start to maybe make a bigger impact, but no, I think that's about right. And I'm going to probably get ahead of you here because I just want to
please do
in here.
Feel free.
We've seen MOMCILOVIC over these 2 games, not quite at the level that I want him at yet, but we have seen good signs. And I don't know if you've talked about this, but all offseason, the kind of narrative around Milan has been shoot more, score more, right? Up until this point, he's very much been a guy that's like, give me 4 shots, I'll make 3 of them, right? I'm going to be a high percentage guy. I'm going to get good looks.
Yeah.
Yes. I just want to get the ball in the hoop when I shoot it. The rest of the time, I can facilitate, I can do whatever. This offseason, the story's been, Milan, shoot the ball. It'll go in more times. You might not end the game with an 80% field goal percentage, but you're going to score more points because by nature of shooting more, the ball will go in more. Well, as true as that is, it's actually not been true over the last 2 games, going 0 of 7. It was this against Creighton, and then 1 of 7 against Northwestern. But I think the sign is there, right? And then I think that was just in the 3-point. Yeah, just in 3 points.
Threes.
That's promising though. So I think over time, he's going to feel more confident in shooting more times like that. I think he's probably still a little bit out of his element. That's the biggest change I want to see from this team over these last 2 games, is just once he gets more comfortable, I think that this team will start to fall into place a lot more.
We said in that first segment, Joshua Jefferson probably the lead. Are you going to stamp that, Nick? Are you going with that?
That Jefferson's going to be the leading scorer? I think he will be, yes, but I think Milan needs to challenge him. I think he absolutely has to. We've seen Jefferson take over in games, namely the UCF game last season. It's not like he can't, and he's very capable. He's
sure,
very good. But I think we need to probably at least have one other guy like Milan, and Milan's very capable as well. It's just going to be, I think it's a head game for him. Same with Nate Heisey, right? I think we have guys that can score. It's just that their role is so ingrained in who they are right now.
Yep.
We can break that. That's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's break them down and build them back up. I'm here for that, Nick. All right. As part of all this, figuring out who these guys are going to be and what they're going to do, they got to play some basketball games. And that's what Nick and I are going to look at next. A schedule that includes a couple highly rated teams in the preseason, as well as an ending stretch in Big 12 play that I am already sweating over on the Cyclones' behalf. We'll unpack all of that for you, make some season predictions coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mazda, who crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings that same level of intentionality to how they craft every single model. You can feel that incredible Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents all the way to the available Nappa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. So even when the snow starts dumping in Ames, Iowa, you should be in good shape. Because with Mazda, everyday drives feel like anything but, from the smooth handling all the way to the intuitive controls. For all of the Cyclone athletes, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We turn our attention now to Iowa State's schedule for this season. We've already talked about the two exhibition games they played, losing at number 23, Creighton, 58-71, and then hosting Northwestern, beating them 80-72. For some reason, I wrote Nebraska in my notes. I guess I was thinking State and not the team. And even as I read, I was like, that ain't it. It was Creighton. So Nick, after a one-year experiment at 20 games, Big 12 back down to 18 games in conference play, and I bring that up because that means 13 games in the non-con slate. With all due respect to all the mid and low major teams, let's take a look at the high major games. A lot of Monday games to kick off the season, by the way, for Iowa State. I think playing literally every Monday in the month of November. On Monday, November 10th, Mississippi State, playing Mississippi State in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm assuming that's going to be at the Pentagon there. I didn't look. And then on Thanksgiving week, playing in the Players Era Festival, Monday against St. John's. And then, hello, Creighton, good to see you again on Tuesday. And then the third game will either be Wednesday or Thursday. They wait and make that schedule later, and we'll see who that opponent is. As for the other high-level games, Saturday, December 6th. I love Saturdays in December in college basketball because they're always insane. This game is one of them, where the Cyclones will travel to play at preseason number 1 Purdue. And then that Thursday, December 11th, it's Cyhawk time, baby, and the Cyclones will be hosting Iowa this year. Nick, as you look at that, I mean, good grief, having both St. John's and a true road game at Purdue on this thing, and also a Creighton team that have already gotten a look at, that's a little bit of a doozy. I know there's not a ton of high major games, but the ones that are on it are not easy.
No, that's for sure. I look at basically everyone except Iowa. Okay, Iowa I'm looking at as if it's, Alcorn State, and that's just the Iowa State Cyclone.
Fired. I love Iowa catching strays. Here we go.
Yeah, no, for real though, Purdue is obviously going to be a challenge. Creighton, we've seen what Iowa State's done against Creighton. The question is, did Iowa State hold back? How much of an impact? There were players missing on both sides of that ball. I believe Owen Freeman, one of them. There was another guy for Creighton. I can't think off the top of my head. Obviously, Lipsey. So that game, I think we've got a hint, but it's not really impacting the future here. St. John's going to be challenging, but I don't know. That's such an interesting one to me because, everyone's opinion on St. John's, I think, kind of differs. It just depends on how you feel about the past and Patino and everything there. So I like Iowa State here. I think that they might pick up 3. It depends largely on what that third game in the Players Era looks like, but I don't think Iowa's going to be a problem. I've got Purdue maybe as a loss there, maybe that third game. And maybe Miss State just kind of sneaks up on them, right? It's early. Who knows where Tamin will be at? But it's kind of like those first 3 major games. I think it could be one of those 3, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that checks out. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was looking at is 2 or 3 losses in non-con play, just depending on that, as you said, that third Players Era Festival game, because there's a wide variety of who that other opponent could be. And I mean, gosh, like if it's something like Houston, that would mean playing 3 of the top 5 preseason teams in non-con play. That would be insanity, Nick. Speaking of insanity, when we moved to Big 12 play, as I was looking through the Iowa State Big 12 schedule, I was like, all right, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Yeah, that's not so bad at all the way through January and the first part of February. And then, Nick, I got to Valentine's Day and my heart went into my throat, because here's the closing schedule. 6 from February 14th on. Saturday, February 14th, hosting Kansas. Monday, the 16th. So back-to-back Monday, or Saturday and Monday. Thankfully, both at home. That is good news. This will be on Big Monday against Houston. That next Saturday, heading up to BYU, and then sticking around and playing at Utah on February 24th. That's a Tuesday. Then Saturday, February 28th, hosting Texas Tech, and then Monday, March 2nd, at Arizona. Then you get to wrap up on the road at Arizona State. We'll say thank you for that one. But Nick, hosting Kansas, hosting Houston, at BYU, at Utah. I know Utah's not great, but it's tough to play there. Hosting Texas Tech at Arizona. Are you kidding me right now with this closing schedule for the Cyclones?
It's tough. And the fact that it's a closer too, just, I mean, as an Iowa State fan, we're seeing what's happening with the football team injury-wise. We saw what happened last season to this basketball team injury-wise. I can't help but have a little bit of like, man, I hope we go into that healthy, or at least as close to healthy as the team can be, you know, on Valentine's Day or whatever. I'm curious, what do you think this team's capable of? Because a few of these games early on in the season, I mean, there's going to be challenges here and there, but I think Iowa State's got the ability to build up a ridiculous amount of momentum going into that. And I'd say a train going 100 miles an hour into a brick wall is going to do a lot more damage than a train that's limping its way into that wall. You know what I mean?
Great analogy. I love it. Yeah, I mean, both in non-con play and in the in the front half of Big 12 play, there's a game at Kansas. But outside of that, I mean, they really could enter this stretch with 1, maybe 2 losses if things break right. I know road games are always going to be difficult, but I think that's what it is, Nick, is the Cyclones have to build up momentum from the turn of the new year all the way up through that Kansas game on Valentine's Day. Because honestly, in that stretch of 6 games, the great news is that 3 of them are at home. That's Kansas, Houston, and Texas Tech. If you wanted one of them on the road, it's nice that it's Utah. It's like that's the easiest team of that group. So if you could escape, I mean this as a good thing. If you could escape that 6-game stretch going 3-3, I'd feel great about that. I'm dead serious. I think because if you come into that with only 1 or 2 Big 12 losses and go 3-3 there, then you get out of Big 12 play 13-5. And with how much like killing each other there is in the Big 12, that could be 2nd or 3rd place. Excuse me, if
I agree.
break the right way. So yeah, I don't know. What about you?
I agree completely. The point I'd like to make about the first half of the conference play is that this gives Iowa State, obviously you've got all the non-conference slate to do this as well, but you kind of have to realign once you get into the big boy games of the Big 12 conference. This gives Iowa State an opportunity to kind of define themselves, right? They've got an identity as Iowa State basketball, but what does this group of 8-10 guys have? What is their identity? Who does what exactly? That, I think, is a great opportunity. That schedule, you're going to have challenges in there. That's the Big 12 for you. Shocker. Like, this is a tough basketball conference. I don't know what to tell you, but it's much easier than the second half. So if they can go into that, you know, Kansas game at home, that's a great momentum builder. Even if you ignore the first 10 games or whatever it is, 9 games on that list, you can go right into Kansas, win at home. Boom. Everyone loves you if you beat Kansas at home. I'll never forget last season's win. Then you got Houston. Like, it's such an opportunity for them to really just take off like an airplane. I do have them at 12-6. I think that it's just I need to see a little bit more to feel really confident in a 13-5 prediction. But I don't hate that either. I think 13-5 is very reasonable.
Yep. And my actual prediction's a little bit lower. I had them at 11-7, just because of the way life goes. Right. It's just like,
especially for Iowa State, man.
Yeah. Like, so I just feel like they're going to get clipped here or there. But I don't think it's crazy to say 13-5. Like there is a path to that is not some like, oh, if everything is No, that is a real possibility for this team. That said, Nick, when it's all said and done, where would you see Iowa State finishing in the Big 12 standings?
Yeah, I think it really depends on like what the other teams pan out to be. So it's hard to make predictions like that. We did all that with football,
100%.
and Arizona State is who are they? And all of a sudden Cincinnati's a world beater, right? And so I'm not really sure what's going to happen here with basketball. Who's going to actually be good? I think Iowa State will be right on top. I think they probably finish third. Not a crazy, undefeated season or anything, but they'll still be in that upper tier of what the Big 12 is. Now, what does that mean for a tournament seed? That is, I don't know for sure, probably 4 or 5. It just kind of depends on what the record lays out as, but I think they'll have a successful season. I don't think this was my prediction, and I will say this just because I'm going right now.
Do it.
I think they have a decent regular season. It's not as good as last season, but I think they have a more successful postseason.
Ooh, I like that. Stay healthy, Cyclones. That's what we're saying right there.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting, like when I look at the Big 12, it feels like on paper to me, Houston, BYU, and Texas Tech are like a top tier, just above the tier of Iowa State, Arizona, and Kansas.
Oh, agreed.
But I feel like those 6, and especially with unbalanced schedules in conference play, like round. But with that top tier, then I would have Iowa State, like I was thinking 4th or 5th. But oddly enough, because of the strength of the Big 12, because of the strength of this non-con schedule as well with those low level teams, I think not only do I have them 4th or 5th in Big 12, I have them, just as you said, as a 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. And so it's just like, that's the good part of being in the Big 12 or the SEC right now, is that you could finish 5th and you could have a better seed in the NCAA tournament than you finish in your conference. Like, that's just the reality of this conference. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you. And I don't actually even hate that prediction as far as a Big 12 goes. I just think that it's, you alluded to it earlier, this conference eats itself alive, and you could start a BYU spiral or whatever.
Dude.
So I'm kind of betting on that a little bit. I'm hoping in some sense that this basketball season takes off and is a turning point for the program, really sets them into some success over down the line.
I mean, interestingly, of that top 3 tier I gave you, I think BYU is more vulnerable than the other 2 would be. We saw in their exhibition game last Friday against North Carolina, where Saunders was kind of relegated to not being the player that we are used to him being, because Rob Wright and AJ DeBanza were so ball dominant. And if they can't get that figured out, BYU is not going to be, in my opinion, what everyone thinks they will be. So, like, those are the kind of things that on paper it looks one way, but we got to see how it plays out, to your great point, Nick.
No, I agree. As far as, how good is BYU? How is BYU going to stink this year? I don't really care. As long as they provide the level of games that they did last season again, every time Iowa State and BYU squared up, it was literally cinema. So that's all I can ask for as a fan. I just want that.
If only we were getting it twice. Maybe we'll get it again in the conference tournament. We'll see there in Kansas City. All right, Nick, great stuff, man. Great to be together. Thanks so much for your time. For those of you who are Iowa State folks here with us today, thank you so much for joining the show, whether you're watching on the college basketball feed or the Iowa State feed. If you're not already following Locked On Cyclones, man, do it now to stick with Nick all basketball season long. You can follow him on Twitter at Nick_MARV, the first 4 of the first 5 letters of his last name, I guess I should say. Really fun there. If you're not following us on Locked On College Basketball, man, hit subscribe down there below. Follow us as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Isaac Shade. If you've not joined us in the Locked On College Basketball Discord, we'd love to see you there. That link is in the show notes. A great place to be a college basketball fan and hang out and just talk basketball all day long. It's so much fun, and it's a great place to be. As always, I want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Cheers to the Wild Pope. Shouts to the McBruins. And until tomorrow, when we do our Big 12 preview, peace.